And welcome in to the Four Verticals podcast here for January 28th, 2025. Hold on, are we starting? Yes, we are on. All right. How about that? Welcome in. We are trying something new here of this new software, if you will. So hopefully the streams actually, you guys can actually hear me. And before we do that, before we go too further, let me just make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, you guys can't hear me. All right, so we're trying some new software. If you can't tell, we're using StreamYard instead of what we usually use. But welcome into the show. If you're new here, first of all, welcome in. This is a college football show. Got some more of a shorter show today. College football topics. Anthony Mackie was doing some press stuff for Captain America Brave New World. Had some comments out there. Wanted to clarify that, or just at least address those, because that is a thing that's been trending on social media. Predictions versus reality segment continues. We got Tennessee and Michigan to deal with, how our predictions worked out with the actual results on the field. A bit of a season recap. And the Buccaneers losing Liam Cohen. Since last time we talked, that went down. So, that all the way. First of all, it is my birthday, by the way, so happy birthday to me. Of course, working on my birthday. Nothing wrong with that, on doing a show on your birthday, but welcome in the show. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing happens if you do. Just, click the button, subscribe, follow us on the podcast feed. You guys should know the drill if you've been here for a while. But if you're not, if you're new here, just make sure you subscribe and follow us on social media, Twitter, YouTube, podcast feed as well. Nothing happens. I don't, knock on your door or, force you to sign a form or anything like that. Just nothing happens. Just sign up, follow me on Twitter and whatnot. If you want to hit the notification bell too while you're at it for live streams and whenever we go live, make sure you can do that as well. Again, that's at Four Verticals podcast on YouTube. Four Verticals podcast on YouTube. Four Verts podcast on the on Twitter or X, or if it's called. So boiler stuff out. Boilerplate out. Boiler. Let me start over here. Boilerplate stuff out of the way. Let's actually dive into the show here. So Penn State, if you didn't know, hired Jim Knowles this past weekend. Jim Knowles, formerly at Ohio State, was their defensive coordinator there for a number of years. I've said it before. I think he was the biggest hire that Ryan Day ever made, I believe, in his career. Comes over, takes over for Kerry Coombs. Should have never been a defensive coordinator. That's a whole other topic for a show later this spring and summer. Before that, he was at Oklahoma State. Terrific. Helped Oklahoma State get to the Big 12 championship game. Faced off, ironically, against Andy Kolnicki multiple times while he was at Oklahoma State. Moves over to Ohio State and had success there, won the national championship, blah, blah, blah. Now, Penn State has a job opening, defensive coordinator, with Tom Allen going to Clemson. Rumors about him going to Oklahoma made sense. Girlfriend, or I think it's girlfriend, I don't know. Someone he knows is from Oklahoma. Of course, was there for a number of years. He was connected to that job with Brett Venables because that position is still open. At least to my estimation, it's still open. But he ends up going to Penn State. Bit of a shocker, I think. Just considering that I think a lot of folks don't realize how this kind of went down a little bit. Based on what I know, some of the things I've been hearing, his relationship with Ryan Day, I think was fine, but him, Larry Johnson, defensive line coach there a long time, defensive line coach at Ohio State, weren't seeing eye to eye, which is something that even Josh P brought up on his show Sunday. Well, he actually didn't have a show Sunday, but on his little reaction video. That stuff happens a lot more than what you think. And that is interesting. I mean, you have the Lane Kiffin stuff and Nick Saban, that was public, but there's a lot of things, and I think what Josh is saying here is that while you've heard drama being out there publicly, the Jim Knowles, Larry Johnson stuff, now I'm going to get into that type of stuff. I heard some of that stuff sort of vaguely, and I don't have message board accounts, or I don't, peruse Twitter all day. I don't go deep into, Buckeyes Twitter or anything. But I was at least aware that there was some animosity towards, Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson, the defensive line coach there. Of course, the Lane Kiffin stuff and Nick Saban, that was public. You literally saw on the sidelines. But it's really the stuff you don't see. And I think this sort of played a role into that. No animosity, I don't think, towards Ryan Day, but just some animosity to some other guys on the staff there played a role in this. I think the appeal to Penn State and James Franklin, and a lot of folks throwing him underneath the bus. I'm not against that type of stuff with the whole, him being overrated and him being an idiot and stupid and people calling him names, wanting him fired. I'm not getting into that type of stuff. Other folks can dive into that stuff. The low hanging fruit stuff I don't really care about. This is a big deal for Penn State, and I think it's a sign. And I'll use still a term from Josh Pate here, from a lot of people. It's a sign that folks who are at Penn State are serious about this, and they're serious about potentially being a player in the national championship next year. They got a taste of it this year with, going to the national championship or going to the semifinals and winning all of the games and the playoff games. I know a lot of people will say, oh, that's what James Franklin was supposed to do. Well, okay. Well, I don't know what else to say to that, but it's like, that's low-hanging fruit stuff. Yeah, I think those of us in the college football sickos world, that doesn't surprise us. And it should also surprise us that James Franklin and them were not going to win the national championship. I didn't pick them. Now I picked them to make the national championship. I didn't pick them to win it, which is different. I don't think anyone was really doing that. I don't think anyone is sitting here saying that James Franklin is like some, I don't know, god of college football. He's not. He's not a bad coach, nor is he an elite coach. He's a good coach. And I think this hiring of Jim Knowles, again, very good, well-qualified defensive coordinator, shows to me, along with bringing back guys like Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and, some of the guys bring back on offense. And they're losing some guys, losing guys on defense, losing some key players on offense. But you're bringing back sort of a nuclei, if you will, of the team, being the two running backs, two best players on the team. Drowers come back for another year. It just seems like to me, with Penn State, with this type of hire, this caliber of hire, that you're being serious about next year. And this year was not a one-off. Oh, cool! They made it to the playoffs. They got within one game of playing Ohio State again. I think they're serious, and I think James Franklin, they know it. They know that this is the last time they'll have these guys on campus. Drew Aller, probably Nick Singleton, and Katron Allen. And think about it. I mean, these guys, Allen and Singleton, have had opportunities to go to the NFL. They've had opportunities to get into the NFL draft. They're not. They're staying around for another year, and for most in past years, it would have been, NFL career suicide. I don't care about that type of stuff mostly in terms of college football, but because of NIL, because of the ability to get paid, you have the avenue of saying, you know what, I can stay in college for another year and win a national championship, and actually, doing something to the university instead of, doing, what can the university do for me? It's more of a thing with Penn State is, what can I do for Penn State versus what can Penn State do for me? I think that's happening there. Very excited to see what happens at Penn State. Again, great hire for them, and a lot of folks are wondering, what's Ohio State going to do? They're going to be fine. I know we'll talk about it a little bit later about what Chip Kelly's future could be at Ohio State. Does he go to Tampa Bay, to the Buccaneers as the offensive coordinator? We'll touch on the Tampa Bay offensive coordinator candidates here later. This whole situation transpiring last week, of course, after we have our show, after our show was concluded early because of audio issues. But for Jim Knowles in Ohio State, I mean, it is what it is. Again, the relationship with him and Larry Johnson, defensive line coach, probably played a role in this. I think money certainly played a role into this, which is normal. The same with Tom Allen. Tom Allen went to Clemson, got a pay raise. Same, I think, situation with Jim Knowles. I think him leaving, shocked some people, which it shocked me in terms of his destination. I think him going to Oklahoma, just because you heard a lot about it, I think it's the classic example of, the convenient smoke screen, why rumors ought to persist type of situation. But we can talk all about that type of stuff all day long. But the bottom line is, I think this is a sign that Penn State is serious. They're making some good hires. They at least know that, hey, if we get this guy coming in, instead of, paying to get guys in the portal. Now, look, they have some issues to fill in. They have some issues at wide receiver, positions to fill in, especially in this secondary portal cycle that's going to happen here in the next few months. But instead of going all in the portal, they went all in on getting a very good coach, very good fundamental head coach, and not head coach, defensive coordinator, and Jim Knowles, who was going to be a godsend for them. And look, I like Tom Allen. Tom Allen's a good guy. I never really met him before, but just some of the stuff I've seen from him seems like a class act, a person. Nothing wrong with that. I think they upgraded here, and I think the fact that, again, you're not losing, massive pieces. Now you're losing some guys, Bolden, the linebacker, and whatnot. But You're bringing back the core guys on offense in particular with, Kentron Allen, Nick Singleton, Drew Aller. Need some help at receivers. At the receivers, of course, Tyler Warren's moving on. But with the pieces you have on defense coming back, Jim Knowles being a very experienced guy in that spring portal window coming, we'll see what they do. But this is, to me, represents a seriousness in terms of hiring coaches, assistant coaches. I don't think Penn State had, let's just say last year or the years past. So that's my thoughts on the whole Jim Knowles situation there. Let me just see if you guys can actually hear me on YouTube here. Let me apologize. We are trying to bring a new system here on the YouTube, so apologize for that. Okay. Yeah, I'm using a couple different sources here. So again, please bear with me, but I think this is actually a nice little system we have up here, so it's working a little bit. Let me figure out where we are here, how long we've been going for. 11 minutes. All right, pretty good clip here. Since this is my birthday, I'll just say that we're not going to go too long here because we do have some other things to get accomplished here. But we're having a pretty good clip here, so I'm pretty proud of that. Predictions versus reality. We started this segment last week, if you will. Last Thursday, we did Kansas State, Oregon. Now we're doing Tennessee and Michigan. So these are the next two teams up. We'll do a few more of these probably throughout the next month or so, and then we'll transition to the spring practice talk and whatnot. But looking back here, doing a recap here, Tennessee, final record was, if I actually should have brought these up here just to be sure these were accurate enough. So stand by if we do that. Let me actually redo this intro here. Should have known these off the top of my head. Let me see here. Oh, this is not going to be an individual video, so this doesn't really matter. But all right, so let me start with that. So last week we did predictions versus reality. Nice little segment. We'll eventually move on from it once we get into spring ball stuff. But we are going to do a little recap, sort of what our predictions were versus what reality was. For both Michigan and Tennessee, we did Kansas State, Oregon last week. So that was definitely a lot of fun. So for Tennessee, regular season, if you will, finished 10-2. Our predictions, by the way, prediction that we did back over the summer last year was 11-1. Was the best case, worst case 7-5. Reasonable was 10-2, which is the one I'm kind of going to say was our sort of final prediction, if you will. So the reasonable prediction was 10-2. Absolutely spot on for the regular season. Now, of course, the postseason, they lost to Ohio State in the playoffs, but 10-2, spot on. Great season for them, for Josh Heupel and them. Yes, there were some struggles, some, sweet and sourness. The sweetness, probably defensively, I think you guys did some really good stuff, improvements. Offensively, if Nico was a learning curve for them. I think some of the numbers come a little bit better, I think. I think a lot of folks in Knoxville will probably brief me on that. Josh Heupel, of course, coming off of the veer and shoot, Baylor Bryles type stuff. Emphasize running the football, having the right receiver split out, like literally spitting on the sidelines, and having the big play. Honestly, they struggled in that department a little bit last year. Ran the ball really well. Dylan Sampson, I think, is going to be one of the unsung heroes of that team. But with the freshman quarterback, he got to the playoffs, struggled at certain times this year. I think if you look at it, Georgia lost, whatever. Arkansas, you beat Bama, great, awesome. Second time in the past 3 years, which is insane, and that's the definition of insanity. Imagine telling yourself you're a Tennessee fan that 10 years ago when you're dealing with one Butch Lyle Jones. We guys were projected actually to make it to the SEC championship game, but didn't because circumstances outside of your fans' control, and in some cases, I think the coaching staff at some points. But imagine telling yourself when 10 years ago dealing with the Butch Jones era that, hey, we're gonna fire Butch Jones, we're gonna deal with Jeremy Pruitt. Then we move on to this guy called Josh Heupel, who at the time I believe got fired from Oklahoma. I think took a sabbatical, goes to Missouri with Barry Odom. That guy who was just fired at Oklahoma as the OC will eventually be your head coach. You guys will be twice in his tenure in the first couple of years, being a top 5 team, at one point being number 1 in the playoff rankings, and you guys would have had 2 10-win plus seasons. I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you would be laughing. Not to mention, too, you being Bama twice. I'm pretty sure you would have laughed and be like, yeah, haha. Sounds like some really cool fan fiction. Not fan fiction. It's actually real. So that actually happened. And once again, I think it's one of the things that as college football fans, now we're using this time of the year to kind of go the 50,000 foot perspective and go, man, just how much has Josh Heupel accomplished in his 4 or 5 now, I think 4 years now, Tennessee. Just insane. He's entering his 5th year. Just insane. Beating Bama twice, 2 10-win seasons, 1 big bowl win. Got to the college football playoffs. You lost to Ohio State. No shame there. You got there with a freshman quarterback, and a quarterback that will only continue to get better. Now, look, I will personally say that we may have probably over-calibrated our expectations a little bit for Nico. I think we definitely played into the hype of him. I'm not the only one who sort of fed into the hype machine with Nico. I think we may have been a little bit a year early with him. I think next year, with another year with Josh Heupel in that system, they should be pretty good next year, I think. At least they should be projected to be pretty good. Again, 10-2 in the regular season, exactly spot on with our reasonable prediction. Again, reasonable prediction was 10-2. Our best case was 11-1. Kind of a pie in the sky situation. I can sort of agree with you on that. But I don't think we were pretty good with Tennessee. I think we got what we expected, and I think the worst case scenario being 7-5 could have been there. Could have definitely been there. A lot of close games at points this year or this past season for Tennessee, but not bad. Not very accurate, by the way. 10-2. As for Michigan, oh man, this one's gonna be fun. So our best case scenario was 10-2. Worst case 6-6, actually more closely to where the direction the season was going. I'll get to that in a second. Reasonable was actually 9-3. Boy, we were a little bit off on this one. They finished 7-5. Now, imagine telling yourself this, your little thought exercise here. I say that, so best case 10-2, worst case 6-6, best case 9-3. I tell yourself, I do those predictions, and I say, okay, I'm from the future. I made those predictions. Best case, worst case, and most reasonable. Reasonable being the one that we ended up going with is 9-3. I say that, but I'm from the future. I don't tell you the record, but I just say you beat USC, who is a top 15-ish type team, at least at that point in the season, and you beat Ohio State, and won the national championship. What do you think your record is, Michigan fan, circa July, August, June? You probably would have been like, oh yeah, those 10-2, 9-3 sounds about right. You guys would aim for. Or 7-5, not 8-4, 7-5. I don't think you guys would have believed that, but that actually happened. I think we were right about sort of the direction of what you guys were going to be this year in terms of felt like the offense was going to be behind the defense. Quarterback situation wasn't great, especially when we got towards fall camp. Alex Orji, they literally built the offense towards him. They didn't get portal guys, receiver guys in the portal because then they needed them because they felt like, we're probably going to end up running a, run-based offense, zone read, Orji probably going to be a 500-yard plus rusher. Didn't happen this year. It was a quarterback. I'm not going to say controversy, but just a quarterback situation. He had options there. It's nothing wrong with having options. He just didn't have options that were good. It's not controversial to have quarterbacks, in the words of Josh Pate. It's not controversial to have multiple quarterbacks. It's a problem to have guys who are not, Big Ten quality players, which Alex Orji obviously is not, David Swarm was not, and Jack Total was not. And one of those guys is not even playing football anymore. I actually think both of them are not. Alex Orji is now at UNLV with Dan Mullen. Imagine telling yourself that 10 years ago. So, that's another weird one, too. Like, imagine telling a Mississippi State fan 10 years ago, hey, Dan Mullen's going to be coaching in college football in 10 years, but he's at UNLV. Huh? Yeah. And his quarterback is going to be probably Alex Orji, I think. Him or Anthony Calandria. Anyway, that's a different segment for a different day. But for Michigan, again, I think in terms of fundamentally, structurally, how this is going to work with the offense behind the defense, I think spot on. I think defensively with Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, or whatever their names are, the two really good defensive players I had this year, was spot on. They were really good. Didn't necessarily expect them to lose to Uh, Indiana, Washington. I grant you they were not favored to win that game, so whatever. Illinois, decent quality team, if you will. Now they'll be really good next year. That's a team that I'm very interested in next year. But I think he ended the season pretty well. I think he beat Bama to the bowl games. That's another thing too. If you told a Michigan fan that, based on the predictions I gave out, yeah, I think I would have certainly believed the 10-2, 9-3 more than the 7-5. But you beat USC, beat Ohio State, beat Bama in the bowl game. Got crushed by Oregon, Indiana, close game, but Indiana being a little bit better than we thought they were going to be. Let's say you sell that the same. I think the outlook for Michigan's actually kind of looking up a little bit. Again, you fired your offensive coordinator. You have in Bryce Underwood, thankfully, to upgrade your coaching well, maybe give your coach some more stability a little bit, and also to upgrade your quarterback room. I think in Michigan, not next year, because I think this year is going to be was going to be more of a bridge year, sort of a low middle transition situation. At least it gives Sherman Moore some stability. And look, I don't think I was wrong. Let me sort of clarify what I was saying during the season about comparing him to Zach Arnett. Certainly some similarities there. First time head coach, sort of feels like an interim situation. Your specialty, the side of the ball that you're an expert at, being offense, got worse. No real fault to him. I think some of it you can blame on a lot of it. Alex Orji not progressing when they thought they were going to be. You tailored offense towards them. Unfortunately, you just had to deal with what you had to deal with for the backups, and at times you're a starter. Bring it by Underwood. You overhaul the offense, I guess, bringing in a new offensive coordinator. It gives Sherman Moore some time. I think the folks over there in Ann Arbor, at least I'm giving some time to get this built up, build under Bryce Underwood, sort of what Billy Napier's dealing with at Florida with DJ Lagway, sort of a similar situation, actually similar caliber quarterback, maybe even better in some ways. But yeah, I think in terms of fundamentals and I think fundamentally and structurally, we were right about Michigan in terms of, again, offense being behind the defense. I don't really think the way the season played out the way it did, again, beating USC and beating Ohio State and going 7-5, not the way you would have drawn it up, especially if you're going through, projecting the records and stuff. But I think from a fundamental standpoint and reading the team, kind of got it right. But the way they went about it, going 7-5, not the way I would have thought they would have gone, but hey, kudos to Sherman Moore and company. Their next year's record or schedule, by the way, has been announced. It's at least a non-conference. It is New Mexico, Central Michigan, and then between that you get Oklahoma on the road. Great helmet game. I'll say that. And then you get Wisconsin, Nebraska, USC, kind of similar schedule. And then you get, of course, your big rivalry game with Ohio State towards the end of the year. Champion Lindsey, by the way, was the new offensive coordinator. Okay, certainly a difference and probably an upgrade, if you will, and coordinator. But I think the arrow from Michigan, especially now watching Ohio State, talked about it last week. I don't think you're going to see Michigan just idly sit by and allow Ohio State to win a national championship and respond. Let alone you just beat them last year. I think you guys will respond. Yes, this is going to feel like a liminal year to you if you're a Michigan fan. But I think 2026 is the year I think you're a Michigan fan. I think I'll be excited. And I'm nodding here as you guys can't see me, but I'm nodding because I think you guys, if you're a Michigan fan, you should be excited. At least I would. I'll be excited. So yeah, predictions versus reality. Worked out great for Tennessee, I think, but for Michigan, again, if you told yourself, again, doing that thought, go back to that thought experiment here, and we'll move on. If I were again a time traveler, I gave you guys those predictions, like I did for Michigan. Then time traveled, came back from January 2025 back to June or July 2024, and said, hey, you guys beat USC, top 15 team. Ohio State won the national championship, then you beat Bama in the bowl game. Again, if you're a Michigan fan, you would have thought like, oh yeah, that 10-2, 9-3, best case and then most reasonable definitely hit. Well, it kind of didn't, but not really. Probably leaning more towards worst case, but the worst case ended up being pretty sweet for you guys. So, again, we're not done with this segment at all. For the next few weeks or so, we got a lot more. I think we'll do Thursday LSU and Penn State. Actually, look at the Penn State one. Actually, hit pretty well. Actually, LSU. Then we have Ohio State and Bama. Actually, the Bama one actually kind of accurate too. Actually, so interesting. And then Ohio State too, to a certain extent. That one was pretty easy. Some of these ones are really weird, like Florida State. Oh no, I think we do Florida State at some point. Auburn. Actually, kind of interesting with Auburn. Actually, we'll get to them at some point. But Arkansas, Kansas, Colorado. We were maybe a little bit off on them. Virginia Tech. Oh man, we were so off on them. Way off on them. Really way off. To Indiana too. UCLA. Interesting on that one. But we'll have the Buccaneers 2 bowl part wrap up with them actually. That was actually kind of spot on a little bit. A little spoiler, but yeah, we'll probably do the segment we won't do all the teams. We'll probably select some of the more notable teams, but we'll eventually get to all those teams at some point in the near future. And as I sort of transition, the show's not done yet. We'll get some water real quick, and then we'll talk about this Anthony Mackie situation, and then we'll move on to the Liam Cohen situation with Tampa, or what was the Liam Cohen situation with Tampa. By the way, again, if you guys are new here, first of all, again, welcome in. Make sure you subscribe. Just click the button. Hello. Again, we're a college football show. Talk about Marvel, Star Wars stuff. Of course, there's a big story going on with Marvel right now. Not really necessarily related to Big New World. Big New, different title at Brave New World, but there's certainly some controversy going on here. Then we also got Buccaneers segment with the Liam Cohen leaving. So again, usually college football, Marvel, Tampa-based stuff sort of thrown in towards the end. So that's kind of the show. Again, we do the show, especially when it turns to college football. We don't go anywhere. Even with the season ending, we're still here. Hello. I know some of these other shows and, pundits and whatnot, they take the season off. They go on vacation. They go to Cancun or Bahamas or whatever. We don't do that. We don't go on vacation. Even on my birthday of all days, we're doing a show. That tells you how dedicated we are here. I know some folks don't like to bring up the birthday, but we do here. Look, I'm enjoying this. It's nothing like doing a show with on your birthday. So, as we sort of move along here, merrily along, again, just make sure you subscribe if you're new here to the podcast feed, YouTube, the like, social media, Twitter. I think most of you who've been around for a while, you guys get the idea. By the way, microphone had to change out. The other one was not working. That's probably the reason why the audio went out. It's working perfectly fine now, I think. But yeah, a little bit of an audio issue last week. It's been taken care of. Again, we are using a StreamYard, by the way, new system here we're using instead of the Restream. A little behind the scenes here, sort of wasting time, but we're filling in some time, some dead space here. But yeah, we're trying this out a little bit. Maybe we'll continue doing this. Very complicated setup here, by the way, but it's working out a little bit, no less. So Anthony Mackie's been trending on Twitter for some of the comments he made, if you will, at a press junket last night. I want to touch on this a little bit. I won't linger on this too long. I'm gonna sort of because it is a touchy subject to say the least. Now his comments, you can go on Twitter and find it. Go on YouTube and whatever. A lot of people have been talking about it. I was on Josh over at Den of Nerds. He was streaming. I think he's still streaming right now. He may have been over by the time I'm done here, but at least when I was starting to stream and trying to get this going, he was still on. Obviously, that's the big topic going around the Marvel circuits right now with Anthony Mackie's comments and how he's sort of being clowned on right now by, let's just say, well, for what it is, some of the political people, or at least people who follow politics, sort of being dragged around by one aisle of the political realm in the United States. For comments he mentioned, sort of paraphrasing here, but saying like, sort of the one everyone's the clip that's been going around, it's him saying, I believe some version of, Captain America doesn't necessarily represent everything American. It's a, well, let me just say this. This whole situation with Anthony Mackie is not his fault. I will just say that. It's not his fault per se. It's more of a lingering PR issue that's been, it's been sort of systemic around Disney in general, and it's not Disney in general, sort of meaning both Marvel and Star Wars. Though Star Wars and Lucasfilm has been really bad lately, especially with the Acolyte and some of the other PR stuff they have to do with like marketing and whatnot. This really kind of dives into that type of stuff. Now, if you're not a PR person like me who actually studied this in college and intern at a lot of places, you don't understand how the sausage is made. I do. As some of my internships, I learned a lot of the tricks and stuff, how some of these organizations do certain things. Like, for example, how should I say this without getting into some sort of trouble? Whenever you have, I think for some of the basic general public, I don't think understands this now. Again, if you're somewhat plugged into public relations, communications, news, and whatnot, or at least social media, whatnot, you know that when certain organizations put out statements, emails, and stuff, letters and whatnot, official letters, the actual people who are sort of supposedly addressing those letters or have supposedly written those letters are the ones who are writing those letters. They have PR people who do that for them. Interns, to a certain extent, do that. I've been privileged to do that before, and some of my internships where I've actually written letters that have been used for official use for people of high priority at certain organizations. So I know how this stuff is done, and I know, at least I firmly believe, that the statement that Anthony Mackie did at the press conference or wherever he was, whether it's here in the United States or elsewhere, could have been overseas perhaps, was not written by him. I'm sure he did not write that. I'm sure this was something he probably rehearsed. I'm sure the PR people at Disney probably prepared it for him. This is not Anthony Mackie's fault. The comments he made were not necessarily his fault. I do blame it on Disney's PR. It's Disney's PR in general, again, with the way they've handled Star Wars, the way they've handled just Disney systematically. Their PR program, frankly, is garbage. It's not good. It's horrible. They have mishandled a lot of things. They fumbled this, because I think what Anthony Mackie was trying to say, I actually kind of understand what he was trying to say. It's sort of a version of, you don't have to be American to understand what Captain America stands for. That's what I believe he was trying to say. It was just poorly worded. Not his fault. Again, as someone who, again, has done internships at multiple organizations, and I've written material for what would be used for official use, that would be official use for that is supposedly coming from people of high power. I understand that the things that people, writers say, CEOs and presidents of companies and whatnot, when they put out the statements and stuff, that's not actually them saying that. It's them who are letting their publicist, PR person, PR firm doing it for them. That's not them actually doing it. Again, this is someone I've done internships. I've seen how the sausage is made. If you're in the PR communication world, you understand what I'm saying. To a certain extent, if you're not, then I don't blame you, because you probably never really consider that these people, when they do, put out statements and whatnot, or letters or emails, that's not actually them most of the time writing. And sometimes if it's like a big, speech or whatever, someone is them, but someone's actually not them. So that's just a little peek behind the scenes here of how, especially in, if we're going into the college football world and some of these press conferences and whatnot, with some of these coaches and, especially these introductory press conferences with the athletic directors and the presidents, that's not actually them writing that stuff. It's publicists within these PR departments at these universities or big companies like Disney do this for them. And I think it's obvious from a PR perspective, not the political lens. Again, if you guys have been following me for a long time, I don't give a crap about, culture war or, which aisle of the spectrum of politics you are at. From a pure PR perspective, the statement that Disney or whoever, the PR publicist that wrote or created that for Mackie, which I believe that's the case, that statement was garbage. Just garbage in general. Poorly written, poorly structured. There's certainly better ways you could have done it. I'm pretty confident in that. And again, that's not Mackie's fault. And I think Mackie's getting jerked for the mud here for something that he really didn't even do. Now, he said what he said, and that's obvious. But what I'm trying to say here, looking at this from a 50,000 foot perspective, again, as someone who's been in internships at sort of PR marketing departments, I know that most of the stuff these high level actors or presidents, CEOs say are not things they've actually written or actually did themselves. It's something that someone did for them. They approved them, maybe to a certain extent. And it was poorly structured. The way it was structured was garbage. Again, I'm not going to sit here and drag Anthony Mackie for the mud like some of you are. Some of these, culture war influencers and whatnot. I'm going to do that. Unfortunately, you're seeing a lot of that now. I could literally look up Anthony Mackie on Twitter. He's trending on Twitter, I'm pretty sure, and he's also trending on YouTube, I'm sure. It's a mess. And if you're Disney and Marvel, it's not good. As I mentioned, and this adds especially more heat onto, or more fuel to the fire, that is Captain America: Brave New World. It's a movie that's been plugged with the reshoots and, some of the stuff you're hearing from guys like Jeff Snyder, who were, the movie's a bit of a mess during test screenings. Test audiences had issues with it. They had to go back and do reshoots, adding in, people like Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder, changing the whole theme of the movie has definitely been changed, adding in some different characters. Not to mention the stuff with some of the characters they're bringing in. The fact that Anthony Mackie's not been the central part of the marketing, by the way, which is mainly just been Harrison Ford. Which, look, I'm not going to sit here and disagree with that. Yeah, I mean, you have freaking Indiana Jones as the president of the United States and Red Hulk taking over for William Hurt after he passed away. Yeah, you'd be dumb to not market that way. But it's just the fact that the movie is Captain America: Brave New World, and it's Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson's Captain America, but he's not the main marketing piece of it. It's just, I don't know, just the movie in general, it's a lot of weird around it, right? A lot of weird. Yes, I'll go and see it. Somewhat excited, I guess. It's cool to see Harrison Ford in finally a big Marvel movie after he was on Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. But I don't know. This just adds more fuel to the weirdness of this movie. Again, I think Mackie, what he was trying to say, I agree with. The whatever version of, hey, Captain America, you don't have to be American to understand him. His values and stuff sort of transcends what America stands for. It's, something to this certain extent, not what he was given. Again, what he said in the salmon he was sort of given out of the semi as PR people was garbage. Not his fault, by the way. And I've seen Anthony Mackie talk in interviews and stuff. He seems like a pretty chill guy. I don't think. I have no idea what happened there. And fortunately, the Disney PR in general, and it doesn't matter which branch of Disney it is, or if it's Disney pure with their animated movies, live action movies, Marvel or Star Wars. PR for them is just horrible. Marketing too has just not been good enough, and I think I don't know if it is going to change over there, because right now it's been a mess for the past couple of years. Again, nothing to do with politics at all, nothing to do with culture wars. Just from a fundamental PR standpoint, it's garbage. It's really bad. Most of these studios has been really bad. Warner Brothers to a certain extent too. I know. I'm not going to get to the whole Superman controversy with the new footage I was released during the NFC and AFC Championship game stuff, but man, James Gunn's getting cooked on social media right now with that Superman shot. But yeah, the Anthony Mackie stuff, again, not his fault. I think some of it definitely is a consequence of what happens when you do not hire well in your PR department. Again, as someone who has been in positions to intern at PR, marketing departments, I know how the sausage is made. I know that it's not his fault. If you want to blame anyone, who should be blamed? It's the PR people. Again, from that perspective only. Again, if you want to look at it, or if you want to go to different other sources of information, you do it from the political realm or the political lens. Don't come here, because I'm not going to do it. If you want to go to other places for that, like CNN or Fox News or whoever YouTube channel, by all means go do it. But from a PR perspective, the statement that Mackie was given was garbage. Not his fault. At least in my opinion, it's not his fault. I know some of you were agree with me on that. Whatever. We can agree to disagree on that. But yeah, that whole situation, the whole situation, in my opinion, is stupid. Him being drugged through the mud for this is not. I'll just leave it off of this. I think you're blaming the wrong people, at least in this situation. I don't think Mackie should be blamed here. I don't think it's his fault. I think the PR department over there in Disney is at fault here. So if I want to blame anyone, blame them for doing a pretty sloppy job of putting a statement together. So yeah, if I want to blame anyone, blame them. Speaking of PR situations, I went from another messy one to another pretty serious situation. So let me get some water real quick, and then we'll wrap up the show with this. So the last time we talked, Liam Cohen was going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator still for the next couple of years. I mean, the next highest paid OC, he was staying. The Buccaneers, I think, formally announced it on Twitter. I think they've actually since deleted that stuff for obvious reasons. But then then Thursday happens. Well, Wednesday happens. Nothing happens. The papers are not signed yet. I know guys like Rick Stroud and guys over at Peter Report, Scott Reynolds, made some comments on it. Something we're watching. Was kind of surprised that nothing had happened yet from Lee Cohen's part in terms of having the official picture of him actually in the office of the with Jason Light and the Glazer family actually signing the documents. But then Thursday comes and we do the show. I was going to do a segment about Liam Cohen and him being re-signed. Ultimately didn't, because by the time we did the show, I thought, okay, maybe by then we'll get the photo, and at that point it's official, because again, we hadn't really heard anything. It's been, it was total silence from that standpoint from the Buccaneers and Liam Cohen's part. So the show starts. The fact that none of that stuff happened, in the middle of the show, I decided not to talk about it, because I started to realize that there was a real problem here. Wasn't going to say it on the show because, again, it was just my feeling. It wasn't anything I was hearing from guys like Rick Stroud or Adam Schefter. There's no evidence of, Liam Cohen potentially going back, being available for other coaching positions. And certainly the two ones at the time were, I believe, the Saints and Jacksonville. The Saints, by the way, still have not gotten head coach yet. I think at that point, the Cowboys already gotten Schottenheimer, or at least promoted from within. So that's why I didn't talk about it on the show, not to mention the audio issues, because otherwise I would have at least hinted at it. But then, of course, I do the show, upload it. Then Rick Stroud and other people start reporting that Liam Cohen has been in Jacksonville. Ironically, that's where I live. So how about that? So he's in Jacksonville. Apparently, he lied to Todd Bowles, said, "Oh, I have a sick kid." Supposedly, he lied. He was in Jacksonville. Of course, the Jags fired their GM, Trent Baalke, who, by the way, if you want to know why Jim Harbaugh went back to Michigan after San Francisco, he's the reason why. So he gets fired. The GM gets fired. Shah Khan, sort of last-ditch effort, reaches back out to Liam Cohen and says, "Hey, you fired the GM. Be still interested? Or at least would you entertain talking to us again?" Liam Cohen, don't blame him, says, "Yeah, I would entertain going back to him." So him taking the job, him taking the Jacksonville job, and him actually getting a head coaching job and leaving Tampa doesn't surprise me. I even said it as much as on this show and privately, that I didn't think, based on the success that Baker was having this year, and he had a great year. Yeah, interceptions were a little high. Touchdown numbers were great. I mean, he's the first player in Bucs history to have 41 touchdowns outside of Tom Brady, which is never thought I'd ever see that happen. I know Jameis got close to 19, but nah. So Liam Cohen getting this head coaching job, that wasn't surprising to me. That's not shocking. The way it went down, though, I will say I kind of wish it went a little differently. The fact that you somewhat agreed in terms of mouth, talking agreement, at least vocally you agreed that the contract even stipulated that you were not going to get a second interview, that you were locked in, pretty much. Any other interviews would be seen as breach of contract, you would get fired. Obviously, that kind of happened with the little Jacksonville thing. The words from Adam Schefter, even Rick Stroud and Scott Reynolds was the Tampa Bay coaching staff, the whole organization was irate, pretty pissed off. I would, knowing that your offensive coordinator, who you thought you had signed and sealed to stay, went rogue on you and became Mr. Secret Agent, lied to you and said, "Oh, yeah, my kid's sick." Well, if you're Todd Bowles on a field with him killing, you're like, well, the news and Twitter are saying otherwise. So what's going on here? Either both is going on. And look, I'm not saying Liam Cohen had a family medical emergency. If you did, then kind of, hopefully things are okay there. But the news is kind of saying otherwise. So I have to say, what happened went down, happened. I was originally going to do a little video on this, but I ended up not doing it because it's like, at this point, everyone else is doing one. I know Peter Report went live. Scott Reynolds, by the way, too. This is, of course, it's a classic. I'm not blaming Scott here. I mean, Liam Cohen's not here anymore, so he has full, legally, I think he's able to do this now. Where Scott brought this up on the live stream, on the Peter Report's little emergency stream, that apparently this is not the first time that Liam Cohen has had issues like this. And Scott mentioned he'll reveal those at some point during the summer. So keep an eye out for that. I may touch on that. Maybe. I'm not the biggest drama fan, but I say all that to say the Tampa Bay offensive coordinator position is open again for the third or fourth time this decade. So who are the candidates for this position? A lot of people. I know there have been interviews that have taken place. Of course, the NFL is a bit different than college football. You have to announce those publicly. I think some folks who are at least connected to Liam Cohen, sort of part of the Sean McVay coaching tree, have been contacted. Chip Kelly's been a big name that's been out there, sort of circling back to what I mentioned about other potential changes on the Ohio State staff. That one we'll see. Of course, it's an interesting little reference there because Chip Kelly was going to be Tampa's head coach before he backed out and went to the Eagles back so many years ago. Cliff Kingsbury, just a name I would watch. I know, yes, their season concluded, and yes, he's sort of in play for the Saints job. But his connections to Baker, of course, he coached him at Texas Tech. I'm a big fan of Cliff and his offense. I know. He was horrible as a head coach in Arizona. I think as the offensive mind, I like him. I really love that offense. Sort of like that Mike Leach, Lincoln Riley type style offense. I know that's very popular to say, sarcasm. But I like that offense. I think that would certainly fit Baker. I don't know if that's the way they're going to go. I certainly believe they will probably go somewhat in the Sean McVay, Liam Cohen tree a little bit. But the position's open. There's a lot of names out there. Just be careful if you're a Bucs fan of what you're hearing, what you're not hearing. A lot of rumors and stuff going around. But at least my dream candidate would be Cliff Kingsbury. Seems unlikely. I think probably will stay in Washington with Jane Daniels and Dan Quinn. But certainly someone from the Sean McVay, Liam Cohen coaching tree probably in play here. Chip Kelly could be in play. Kellen Moore could be in play as well. That's another big name out there. Again, don't know if that's true or not. I'm certainly that's just a name out there. But we'll see what they go with. I'm sure hopefully by the time we talk again on Thursday, they'll have an answer to that. But that position is open. And that OC, they're open. They're interviewing candidates right now as we speak. And hopefully, who knows? Maybe we'll get a resolution after we're done with this stream and have to do a emergency video later. Hopefully not. Because I much prefer to have the rest of my birthday to be at least open. But look, if duty calls, and you have to hop on. So, that being said, again, I'm keep an eye on it. I'll let you guys know what I'm hearing. But at the moment, seems to be guys like Kellen Moore, Chip Kelly, sort of the big pipe dreams there. Even bigger one, at least in my opinion, would be Cliff Kingsbury. But I think just generically, again, you want someone who Baker's familiar with, someone who, at least terminology-wise, is similar to Liam Cohen, so that Sean McVay sort of style is what you're sort of looking for here. That would be someone that, if I'm a Bucs fan, at least I'm hoping for some stability there. We'll see what happens. I know there's some other coaches that Tampa's lost. The defensive line coach left to go to the Raiders, I believe. Some other pieces there. Of course, Liam Cohen could easily, of course, take some coaches with him from Tampa. So think about like a quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach, offensive line coach, I believe, is also in play for Jacksonville. So, yeah, a lot of changes happen at Tampa. I mean, that's obviously not what you expected if you're Todd Bowles or even Jason Light, but never work cut out for you. They're smart enough to figure it out. I think they will figure it out. Of course, it's not really Todd Bowles' fault. Yes, could you make the argument that maybe Todd and them should have, hurried this up a little bit and had maybe forced Liam to sign the papers quickly enough? But look, it is what it is. Hindsight's 2020 here. I'm not going to blame Todd Bowles for this. It's completely out of his control. And look, again, Liam Cohen taking the Jags job, not surprising the way it went down. Not the way, at least, I thought it was going to go down, but I mean, it's the result I thought we were going to get. So I know a lot of Bucs fans are saying, "Oh man, I'm so surprised by this." I'm not. Like I said this on the show, I believe multiple times, even said it privately, even off air, that I felt like that Liam Cohen was going to leave, and folks laughed at me for that. But here we are. He's here in Jacksonville with me, so at least we're in the same city. That's interesting, but yeah. And that's the show, by the way. So we're done with the show here for today. We'll be back Thursday. So until then, make sure you follow me on Twitter for any updates on the OC situation with Tampa. If any news drops in between now and then, I'll maybe hop on and do a quick little video, pre-recorded video. But unless that happens, until Thursday, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll see you Thursday. Again, just because, the national championship concluded last week doesn't mean we're not stopping doing shows. We are going full speed ahead into February, late winter into early spring. Got spring practice starting soon, by the way. End of next month for some schools will be starting. So how about that? So until Thursday, take care. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you then.